Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about why I am no longer vegan. So to give a bit of a context to this story, why did I even go vegan in the first place? Before I begin, this is not a vegan hate video. To anyone who is currently vegan, I think that you're probably in it for the right reasons in terms of you have the right intentions, because that's where I was coming from. I'm not coming here with a sense of judgment, but rather understanding because I have been there. So what's my unique perspective? I actually started off with going vegetarian. That started when I had to cut out dairy from my diet. I started experiencing gut issues several years ago, and I didn't know where they were coming from. I was the type of person who used to be able to eat or drink anything and not get any issues whatsoever. When I started experiencing these gut issues for several weeks on end, it didn't get better. I started to look for why it's happening. At that point, I hadn't eliminated anything from my diet. As far as I was concerned, I could eat anything. When it comes to inflammatory foods, people often look to gluten and dairy as the culprits. And so that's what I did as well. I actually removed dairy from my diet, and I also removed gluten from my diet. So before going vegan, I was already gluten and dairy free. And I lived my life being gluten free and dairy free for a number of years, but I still didn't feel 100%. And I always felt very limited, in a state of lack, and mentally, I didn't really feel great about it. Yes, I was adapted to a gluten-free lifestyle and a dairy-free lifestyle, but even within the context of what I could eat, I still wasn't completely happy with that. One of the biggest things that convinced me to go vegan was watching the documentary Game Changers. I watched a few different vegan propaganda documentaries. I call it quote-unquote propaganda because when you really look deep into it, they are only showing one side of the story. And I didn't know that at the time. Yes, there is a lot of truth to what they're saying, especially when it comes to the seafood industry. And there's a lot of things we can improve on when it comes to animal agriculture or agriculture in general. But the situation isn't so one-sided. Back then, I didn't know much about nutrition either. I falsely believed, after watching these documentaries, that being vegetarian and being vegan is the right choice for me. And it is the right choice for all the animals around me and the planet. I actually got recommended to watch the documentary Game Changers by my GP at the time. I was really hoping that going vegan would heal my gut. When it came to protein, I already had an idea that being vegan and vegetarian puts you at a high risk of being in a protein deficiency. So I always tried to focus on protein. I wasn't actually counting any of my macros at the time, but I was limited by the fact that I couldn't tolerate things like tempeh, which is a wheat-based, gluten-based protein food. Ultimately, my vegan journey got intensified after I did a 2-week raw juice fast, and that was me being basically raw vegan for 2 weeks. That was quite challenging for me. I had been researching the juice fasting protocol, and I believed that it would benefit me and it would heal my gut issues. When I did the juice fast, I did actually feel some benefits, and now, knowing better, I attribute that to a lack of fiber in my diet, but I was still very hungry all the time. And this is where I'm going to talk about all the different things I experienced. Before I go into what I experienced being vegan, let me just give you a little snapshot of what was I eating day to day. Some of my staples include tofu, potatoes, lentils, spices, kale, silver beet, leafy greens like bok choy, cabbage, broccoli, pumpkin here and there, sweet potato here and there, onions, garlic, ginger. I didn't really used to eat much tomatoes or zucchinis. I even added nutritional yeast in my diet near the end because it had B12 in it. It had some protein in it as well. Knowing that being a vegan, I was probably deficient in those things, I added that to my diet. And occasionally I would have protein powders with oat milk. Occasionally I would consume chips and gluten-free cookies and things like that just as a treat. But I really tried to eat healthily. I wasn't perfect, but I did my best. I would also have corn-based foods such as tortillas or tacos or wraps or gluten-free breads and things like that. Now, sounds pretty healthy, right? Well, the symptoms that I was experiencing while being vegan were less than healthy. I felt irritated all the time. I always just thought that I had an anger problem. I didn't always have this anger problem, but for some reason I just accepted in my life that I guess I have an anger problem now. Later I would come to find out I was actually just hungry all the time. I had extreme dissatisfaction with life. I had a very low passion for life, no joy, and just general disinterest in life. I would feel fatigued quite often, and even though I was trying to be active, I did get tired quite quickly, and it would take me days to recover sometimes. I generally just felt weak, and I did lose a bit of muscle mass. I thought I was losing weight, but now looking back, I do believe that it was muscle mass that I lost, which makes sense because I was not consuming enough protein. The other extremely disturbing thing that I was experiencing was extreme hair loss. For context, I've always had quite thick hair. I knew that the level of hair fall that I was getting was not normal. Not only that, I felt extremely bloated all the time. I did try to implement some intermittent fasting schedule, and for a small period of time I was doing 16/8 fasting, which did help me gain some control over my food intake, because I did have a problem with eating too much because I just felt hungry all the time. When it comes to my reproductive health, I did experience extremely painful cycles and very heavy flow. Later I would find out that's actually not normal, and it's actually a sign of something. And near the end of my vegan journey, I was experiencing a lot of gastrointestinal distress. It seemed that anything I ate would trigger issues within my gut. So basically I was done with veganism. Nothing I was doing was working. I decided I need to do a FODMAP diet. And this is when I had already studied nutrition a little bit, and I knew a little bit about food. And so I thought, okay, let's try this elimination diet. Maybe this will help me. I tried it for a week. Maybe it wasn't long enough, but I still experienced symptoms. So if I'm not vegan now, if I'm not doing FODMAP now, what do I eat? Stay tuned to the next video. I'll go in detail about what I'm eating now and when I eat it and how I eat it. Until then, stay well.